The dust hit May Colton before she even reached the fence line. It came sideways, the way dust always did in Cutter's Bluff, like the land itself wanted to push people out. She kept walking. Her boots were worn through at the right heel, and the left sole had been patched twice with strips cut from an old saddle. She carried a wooden bucket in each hand, and her shoulders did not bend. The Harrove cattle had pushed through the south fence again. 3 of them stood in her cornfield, eating what little she had left after the dry summer. She set the buckets down, pulled the rope from around her waist where she kept it looped, and walked straight at the nearest one. It stared at her. She stared back. The cow moved first. By the time she had all 3 out and the fence knotted back together with wire, she had scrounged from a broken cartwheel. Her hands were bleeding at the knuckle. She wiped them on her skirt and picked up the buckets again. That was a Tuesday. On Wednesday, Dale Harrove rode up to her porch with 2 of his ranch hands, flanking him like bookends. Dale was a wide man with a neck like a tree stump, and the kind of smile that meant he had already decided something before he opened his mouth. "May," he said, not getting off his horse. She stood on the porch and did not invite him in. "Heard you've been having trouble keeping that place running," he said. "You heard wrong," she said. "Your corn didn't come in this year. Neither did your wheat. Mel Colton's been in the ground 8 months, and that roof on your barn has a gap you could throw a cat through." "I patched the roof last week," she said. Dale tilted his head like she had said something funny. "May, you got 300 acres here. Good land mostly, I'll give you fair price. It's not for sale. Now, May." "Mr. Harrove," she said, and her voice did not go up or down, and it sat flat and level like the horizon behind him. "This is my land. Mel left it to me and our boy. It will stay ours. You can ride back the way you came." Dale's smile didn't leave. It just changed shape. "Woman running a ranch alone," he said. "People talk, May. No family left, no hired help, no man on the property." He paused. "No one marries a fat widow, they say." The air went still. May Colton looked at Dale Harrove for a long, quiet moment. Then she said, "No one marries a fat widow." "Sir, but I can work." Dale laughed. His 2 hands laughed too, a beat late. He turned his horse and rode off without another word. May went back inside and stood at the kitchen table with her hands flat on the wood. Her boy, Cal, was 9 years old and asleep in the back room with a fever that had not broken in 2 days. The doctor in town had already been paid once. She did not have money for a second visit. The pantry had dried beans, a half bag of flour, and a jar of last autumn's preserves. The well was holding, but the pump was starting to stick. She did not cry. She had cried out in the first month after Mel died, when the ground was still frozen, and she did not yet know if the ice would break before she did. The ice broke first. Now she made a list. Fence the south line proper before Harrove's cattle came back. Get Cal's fever down with the willow bark she had drying. Find work in town to cover the doctor if the fever climbed. And find out who in Cutter's Bluff might hire a woman who showed up on time and did not complain. She went to bed at 9 and was up at 4:30. On Thursday morning, before the sun was full up, a horse came up the road at a walk. Not Dale's men. This horse was a dark roan, trail-worn, with a rider who sat like someone who had been in the saddle so long it had become his natural state. He stopped at the gate. He did not come through it. May was at the well, and she watched him from across the yard. He took off his hat. That was the first thing. The second was that he did not say anything for a moment. just looked at the place the way a man looks at a map he is trying to read. "Ma'am," he said finally. "Name's Cole. Wade Cole. I heard in town you might be needing a hand." She set the bucket down. "Who told you that?" "Woman at the dry goods. Mrs. Pruitt. And what makes you think I'd hire a stranger off the road?" Wade Cole looked at the fence line, then the barn, then back at her. "Because you patched that fence with cart wire and it won't hold through the weekend, and because you're carrying 2 full buckets and it's not yet 5 in the morning. And because," he said, "Dale Hargrove rode into the saloon last night and told half the town he'd have your land before the snow comes." May was quiet for a moment. "I can't pay much," she said. "I know. I can pay some, and room in the barn. I know that too." She looked at him hard. He let her. He had the kind of face that had been through weather, not just worked outdoors, but genuinely tested by it. And he did not look away. And he did not try to seem smaller than he was to make her comfortable. "You come with any references?" she said. "The foreman at the double bar in New Mexico. Man named Chet Ruiz. You can wire him." "I'll wire him tonight," she said. "Until I hear back, you can start on that south fence. Tools are in the barn. There's coffee on the stove if you want it." She picked up her buckets and walked back to the house. Wade Cole tied his horse, pulled his gloves from his belt, and walked to the barn. Neither of them said another word until noon. That was how it started. Not with trust, not with warmth, not with anything soft. It started with a fence and 2 people who did not waste words. In Cutter's Bluff, that counted for more than most people understood. The land out there did not reward sentiment. It rewarded showing up. May Colton had been showing up for 8 months alone. She did not yet know what Wade Cole had been running from for 3 years. But the land had a way of settling things in its own time. The first week, Wade Cole did not speak unless spoken to. That suited May fine. She was not looking for conversation. She was looking for work done. And the work got done. By Saturday, the south fence was rebuilt properly, not patched. He had pulled the old posts, set new ones, and strung wire with the kind of even tension that told her he had done it many times before. She walked the line Sunday morning before he was up, and found one post slightly off plumb. She straightened it herself and said nothing about it. It was one post. Everything else was right. Cal's fever broke on Friday night. May sat beside his cot until 2 in the morning, changing the cloth on his forehead. And when the fever finally dropped, she put her head down on the edge of the mattress and slept there in the chair without meaning to. She woke with a stiff neck and her boy looking at her with his father's eyes. "You okay, Ma?" he said. "Fine," she said. "Eat something." Cal was a quiet boy. Not unhappy, just watchful. He had Mel's way of taking in a room before he said anything. On Monday morning, he came out to the barn while Wade was repairing the latch on the big door and stood at a distance, watching. Wade glanced at him once. "You want to hand me that flathead?" he said, nodding at the tools on the ground. Cal picked it up and brought it over without a word. They worked like that, side by side, not talking, for 40 minutes. May watched from the kitchen window without letting herself think too much about it. She rode into town on Monday afternoon to send the wire to New Mexico. Mrs. Pruitt at the dry goods watched her write it out with the kind of expression that was trying hard to look like it wasn't watching. "Heard Dale Hargrove made you an offer," Mrs. Pruitt said. "He did," May said. "You gonna take it?" "No." Mrs. Pruitt folded her hands on the counter. "May, And that land is a lot for one woman. I have help now, May said. She slid the wire across the counter and put her coins down beside it. Mrs. Pruitt's eyes went a little wide. You hired someone? I did. Who? Man named Wade Cole. Came in off the road Thursday. Mrs. Pruitt's expression did the thing it did when information was being filed away for later use. Don't know that name, she said. You will, May said. He does good work. She left before Mrs. Pruitt could ask the next question. The reply from Chet Ruiz came the next morning. May read it at the kitchen table before Wade was up. It said, Wade Cole worked my spread 2 years. Best hand I ever had. Honest, hard, no trouble except the trouble that found him, and wasn't his fault. If you got him, keep him. She folded it and put it in the tin box where she kept Mel's papers and her deed. She did not tell Wade she had received it. He did not ask. But something in the way she handed him his coffee that morning was slightly different. Not warm exactly, not cold either. Level, like the land on a clear day when you could see all the way to the ridge. By the second week, Harrove made his next move. 2 of his men came by while Wade was out checking the north pasture and May was alone at the house. They did not ride up politely this time. They rode up fast, pulled up short, and the one called Len, who had a red beard and small eyes. He leaned down from his saddle. Harrove wants to know if you changed your mind, Len said. Tell him no, May said. She was on the porch. She had the broom in her hand because she had been sweeping when they came. She did not put it down. He's willing to go up on his price, Len said. Tell him the price doesn't matter because the land isn't for sale. The other man, younger and quiet, looked at the barn, at the house, at the distance, measuring things. You got a hand out here now, Len said. Trail stranger, don't know anything about him. I know what I need to know, May said. Harrove just wants you to be careful is all, Len said. The way he said it, careful sat in the air like a stone with an edge. May looked at him. I am careful, she said. That's how I'm still here. Len stared at her a moment longer, then turned his horse, and they rode off. May went back to sweeping. She swept the whole porch twice. When Wade came back at midday, she told him about it plainly while she poured his coffee. She did not dress it up, and she did not make it smaller than it was. Wade listened. He did not say anything for a moment. Then he said, Len and who? Young one? Dark hat, didn't talk. That's Pete Lyle, Wade said. He's good with a rope, used to work the eastern slopes before Harrove brought him on. He picked up his coffee. They'll be back. I know, May said. You want to tell me what Harrove actually wants? 300 acres with a creek running through the south field. My land is the only thing sitting between his east spread and the county water rights he's been trying to lock in for 2 years. Wade set his cup down. So it's not about the land, he said. It's about the water. It was never about the land, May said. Wade looked at the window. Outside, the sky was going yellow the way it did before a dry wind came. We need to get you to the land office, he said. And a lawyer, if you can afford one. I can't. I know a man in Dry Fork. He owes me something. Might be willing to look at your papers. May was quiet for a moment. It was the longest stretch she had gone without arguing with anyone in 2 weeks. All right, she said. Wade stood up. Tomorrow morning, he said. I'll have the horse ready. He went back out to work. May sat at the table and looked at the folded wire in the tin box. She thought about the words, best hand I ever had. Honest, hard, no trouble except the trouble that found him and wasn't his fault. She thought about what trouble found a man for 3 years. She did not open the box again. The ride to Dry Fork took 4 hours along a road that the last 2 weeks of heat had turned to cracked clay. May rode her old mare and Wade rode the roan, and they did not talk much for the first hour. Cal had stayed behind with strict instructions and a list of chores that would keep him busy and close to the house. The lawyer Wade knew was a man named Holt Briggs. He had an office above the saddler's shop on the main street in Dry Fork, and he came to the door with his jacket off and reading glasses pushed up on his forehead. He looked at Wade the way men look at someone they are glad to see but were not expecting. "Thought you were in New Mexico," Holt said. "Was," Wade said. "This is May Colton. She needs someone to look at her deed and her water rights." Holt looked at May. "Whose land?" "Mine," May said. "Who's trying to take it?" "Dale Hargrove." Holt made a sound that was not quite a word. He pushed the door open wider. "Come in, then." They sat at his desk for 2 hours. Holt read every paper May had brought, asked quiet, pointed questions, and wrote things in a small notebook with careful handwriting. And at the end of it, he leaned back and looked at the ceiling for a long moment. "Your deed is clean," he said. "Mel filed everything right and the title transferred to you proper. The water rights are the problem." "How so?" May said. "Mel registered them in '78, but Hargrove's lawyer has been quietly filing challenges since last spring. Small procedural things, the kind that accumulate. If it ever went before a judge right now, it's not certain you'd win. Not because you're wrong, but because of the paper trail they've been building." May folded her hands in her lap. "What do I need to do?" she said. Holt glanced at Wade, then back at May. "You need to file a response to each challenge on record. I can do that. It takes about 2 weeks and it costs $40. $40 sat on the table between them like a wall. "I have 22, May said. It cost her something to say it out loud. Her jaw went tight, but her voice stayed even. Holt looked at his notebook. "I'll take 22 now and the rest when I'm done. If you lose the water rights, Hargrove gets what he wants anyway. So there's no point in me winning a case for someone who can't farm without water." He said it without cruelty. Just plain. May nodded once. They shook hands across the desk. On the ride back, the sun dropped behind the ridgeline and the air cooled fast the way it did in September. May rode with her eyes on the road and Wade rode slightly behind, which was not something she had asked for, but she had stopped noticing it was happening. After a long silence, Wade said, "Hargrove's going to know you went to see a lawyer." "I know," May said. "That might push him to move faster." "Let him move faster," May said. "Faster means louder. Louder means he makes mistakes." Wade was quiet for a moment. "You've been thinking about this a long time." "Since the week after Mel died?" she said. "Hamdal showed up at my door with a sympathy cake and a low offer before the ground was thawed." She kept her eyes on the road. "He thought a grieving woman wouldn't look at the numbers. I looked at the numbers." Wade did not say anything. "He's been waiting for me to get tired," May said. "Or scared. Or for my roof to cave in or my well to run dry. He wants me to decide the fight isn't worth it." A coyote crossed the road 20 yards ahead. Both horses watched it. It disappeared into the brush without looking back. "Is it worth it?" Wade said. Not challenging, just asking. May thought about Cal's eyes that were Mel's eyes. She thought about the south field and the creek that ran cold even in August. She thought about the list she made at the kitchen table with her bloody knuckles. Every day, she said. They reached the homestead after dark. Cal had done every chore on the list and was asleep with the lamp still on. May turned it off and stood in the doorway of his room for a moment. Then she went to bed. Wade slept in the barn. At 3 a.m, he heard a horse on the road. It did not stop at the gate. It slowed, moved along the fence line at the edge of the property, and kept going. Wade lay still in the dark and listened to it until it was gone. Then he got up and checked the barn door and the horses and walked the perimeter of the yard once. Nothing broken, nothing touched. He went back to his blanket, but he did not sleep again until dawn. Holt Briggs was 2 days into the filings when Dale Hargrove made his real move. It did not come as a threat or a rider or a loud afternoon visit. It came as a letter delivered to May's door by a boy from the post office, typed on the letterhead of a law firm in the county seat. It informed May Colton that a formal claim had been filed asserting adverse possession of the water rights attached to the 300-acre Colton parcel, based on uninterrupted use over 5 years. May read it twice at the kitchen table. Then she handed it to Wade without a word. Wade read it, set it down. He's claiming his cattle have been using your creek water long enough to have rights to it, Wade said. His cattle broke through my fence to get to that creek, May said. I have the fence repairs to prove it. You'd need a record, dates, costs. May went to the tin box. She pulled out a smaller envelope from inside it and laid it on the table. Inside were torn receipts and small folded notes in Mel's handwriting and then in her own, going back 2 years. Dates of fence repairs, wire purchased, posts replaced. Wade looked at the pile. You kept all of this? He said. Mel kept the first year's worth. May said. I kept the rest. She paused. I told you. I've been thinking about this since the week after he died. Wade picked up one of Mel's notes. It was just a date and a measurement and a cost. Mel's handwriting was plain and careful, and Wade looked at it a moment longer than he needed to. He set it down. We need to get this to Holt today. They made the ride in 3 hours, pushing harder than yesterday. Holt spread the papers across his desk and looked at them with the kind of focus that meant he had found something useful. This is good, he said. This shows continuous breach on Hargrove's part. It directly counters the adverse possession argument. He looked up. Where did you keep all of this? Tin box, May said. Most people don't do that, Holt said. Most people aren't fighting Dale Hargrove, May said. Holt smiled for the first time. It changed his face. I'm going to file an injunction today. It's going to stop any further Hargrove action on the water claim until a judge reviews it. He looked at Wade. This is going to get ugly. It's already ugly, Wade said. Uglier then. On the way back, they passed through the edge of town, and May pulled her mare up at the general store. She needed flour. She went in, and Len was standing at the counter talking to the store owner. He stopped talking when May walked in. May took a basket and moved through the aisle. Len said, loud enough, Hargrove's going to get tired of being patient. May set a bag of flour in her basket. She picked up salt. She moved to the counter and put her items down and paid, without looking at Len once. On the way out, she said to the store owner, whose name was Gil, and who had known her since she was 14, You tell anyone who's asking that I'm not leaving, and I'm not selling. And the next time someone sends men to ride my fence line at 3 a.m, I'll be writing to the county sheriff. Gil nodded slowly. Len said nothing. May walked out into the sun and tied her flower to the saddle. Wade was waiting at the post, watching nothing in particular with the particular attention of a man who was watching everything. "You hear that?" she said. "Heard it," he said. They rode home. That night, Wade sat on the porch after supper, and May brought 2 cups of coffee without being asked, and sat in the other chair. It was the first time they had sat like that. The sky went red, and then purple, and then deep blue, with stars coming out one at a time, like they were being lit by hand. Cal sat on the step and whittled something shapeless out of a stick. "Who taught you that?" Wade said. "My pa," Cal said. Nobody said anything for a while. "He was good at it," Cal said. "He made me a horse once, a real good one." "You still have it?" Wade said. "Yeah. More quiet. The kind of quiet that has weight, but not pressure." May drank her coffee and looked at the stars and did not think about Dale Hargrove for the first time in 3 weeks. The judge's name was Clarence Earl, and he came out of the county seat in a wagon because he did not ride horses anymore on account of his back. He was a lean, dry man with white hair, and the kind of patience that came from sitting in rooms where people lied to him for 30 years. So after the hearing was held in the town hall in Cutter's Bluff on a Thursday morning, May wore her good dress, which was brown wool and fit her properly, and was not anything to remark on except that it was clean and pressed, and she had done that herself the night before. Wade sat behind her in the gallery alongside Holt Briggs. Dale Hargrove sat on the opposite side with a lawyer from the county seat named Philip Orr, who had a gold watch chain and a way of arranging papers that suggested he was very expensive. Judge Earl read through both filings with his glasses on and asked 3 short questions of Holt and 2 of Philip Orr, and then set the papers down. "Mr. Orr," he said, "your adverse possession claim rests on continuous, uninterrupted use. Miss Colton has provided documentation showing that access to the water source in question was achieved by repeated breach of her fence line, which she repaired at her own cost over a period of 26 months. Does your client dispute that documentation?" Philip Orr adjusted his watch chain. "Your Honor, the documentation is informal and—" "Does your client dispute the dates?" Judge Earl said. A pause. "No, Your Honor." Then the use was not uninterrupted. It was interrupted every time Miss Colton repaired her fence. The adverse possession claim fails. He made a note. The water rights remain with the Colton parcel. The injunction is made permanent. Court is adjourned. He closed his folder. Philip Orr began to say something. Judge Earl had already picked up his pen and was writing. The conversation was over. May sat still for a moment. Then she picked up her bag and stood up. Holt was already shaking her hand. "Clean win," he said. "Clean as it gets." Wade was standing at the gallery rail. He did not say anything. He gave a single nod, the kind that meant more than a speech. Dale Hargrove walked past her on the way out. He did not look at her. His jaw was tight and his face had gone a particular shade of red that May recognized as the color of a man recalculating. She let him pass. Outside, Cal was waiting with the horses. He had sat on the hitching post the whole morning because he was not allowed inside and had not complained once. He looked at his mother's face when she came out and read it the way Mel's son would read it. "We win?" he said. "And we won," May said. Cal nodded like he had expected this. He handed her the reins. They rode home the long way, through the south field, along the fence line that was properly strung now, past the creek that ran cold and clear through the corner of the property. May pulled up her horse at the bank and let it drink. Wade pulled up beside her. "What happens when Hargrove decides the water rights aren't the last move he makes?" Wade said. Then we handle the next move, May said. He's not the kind of man who stops. No, May said. He's not. The creek ran. A hawk crossed high overhead, moving south without effort. I was thinking, Wade said, not looking at her, looking at the water. If you wanted to look at putting up a second fence line on the north side of the creek, it would make the boundary clearer, harder to dispute later. That's about 2 weeks of work, May said. I know. She looked at him. You planning on being here in 2 weeks? Wade was quiet for a moment. Then he said, Chet Ruiz's reply said you should keep me if you got me. May raised an eyebrow. You read my wire. Holt told me what it said, Wade said. Chet and Holt know each other. Small world. May looked back at the creek. Trouble that found you, she said. Not your fault. That's what Chet wrote. Wade's jaw moved slightly. 3 years ago, I testified against a man who ran cattle through 3 counties and paid sheriffs to look the other way. He had people looking for me for 2 years after. Figured staying moving was smarter than staying put. May let that sit. So Cutter's Bluff is you staying put, she said. Thinking about it, he said. The pay is low, she said. I know. The work is hard. I know. And Dale Hargrove is going to make things difficult for anyone connected to this land for the next while. I know that too, Wade said. May gathered her reins. Then start on the north fence line Monday, she said. I'll have coffee ready at 4:30. She turned her horse and rode back toward the house. Wade sat at the creek bank a moment longer. The hawk was gone. The water moved. The sky was enormous and blue and indifferent the way it was every day out there. Not cruel, not kind, just present. He turned the roan and followed her home. Cal was already at the gate when they rode in, holding it open, waiting to close it behind them. He did it without being asked, the way Mel's son would do it. The gate clicked shut. Somewhere across the southern field, Dale Hargrove's cattle were where they belonged, on the other side of a fence that was going to hold. For now, that was enough. May Colton put her horse in the barn, filled the water bucket, and went inside to start supper. She made enough for 3,